Hello there and welcome to this video about another net list for the Mortuary Cults, who are a faction pretty much at the top of the meta at the moment. There's a few lists that I've had a look at to inspire this net list, and I've gone for like a combination of a lot of stuff that I've seen. Essentially, like the way that Tomb Kings work is that they're very 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 forgiving. They let you pretty much make a ton of mistakes. The fact that you can resurrect stuff and heal stuff and so on and so forth is pretty good. So yeah, let's get to it. So this is 1980. So like other lists, I've essentially put what I consider to be essential, and there's 20 points spare for you to add an extra magic item or like the final few bits and bobs. That's what it will probably look like on the table, something like that. There's a big block of archers. That mortuary priest, that's the battle standard bearer. That's not actually part of the unit. It's just hiding behind. It's hiding behind for a couple of reasons. That you want to put it like you want to put like a single character at the back of the unit, so that if somebody charges it, it can't get pushed back. So you essentially just lock it in place, unless obviously there's a rank that's which locks them into combat, and that also means then that you can charge in the flank. I mean, you can't here, but I mean this is turn one, so. Anyway, let's go through the list. So there's a high priest on a dragon. It's got the serpent staff, and you've got law of illusion. Why have we done that? Well, because what we want. So the serpent staff. It's a bit of a toss-up, really, between the serpent staff and the staff of aeons. Because the serpent staff is basically strength +2, AP2, it's poisoned, but that's not why you'd take it. It's just the strength +2 AP2. It's like a magic great weapon. The reason you do that is because of in illusion, you've got a spell called Spectral Doppelganger, which does 2d6 hits at strength +2 AP2. That's pretty nasty. The High Priest is only strength 3, but still 2d6 strength 5 AP2 hits is very good. The Staff of Aeons is another 10 points, strength +2 AP1. However, any model hit by one or more close combat attacks is -1 modifier to its armor value for the rest of the game. Now, that's not that good, because if you've got Spectral Doppelganger off, your target's probably dead. Probably. And this is Initiative 2, as is the Dragon. So it's not like the Staff of Aeons. The Staff of Aeons gives you essentially an extra AP, or effectively an extra AP to your stomps in the first round of combat, and then it basically gives your Dragon an extra AP against that particular target for the rest of the game. So if you're going into one of their dragons, giving your dragon an extra AP with the Staff of Aeons might be worth it. It's a bit of a toss-up between the two. In the first round of combat, the reason that you don't is because all Initiative 2 happens at the same time. So all those Initiative 2 attacks, which is essentially the High Priest and the Dragon, so you don't get the extra, you don't get the -1 armor value until after you've done that initiative step, as it were. So that would be my interpretation of the rules. There's an argument there that once you've done one hit, then the rest. But I mean, I don't agree with that. Then we've got a couple of mortuary priests. One is the battle standard bearer and has the scarab brooch, and the other is a wizard. Well, they're both wizards. So we've got a 4, a 2, and 2, and this one has the amulet of the serpent and necromancy. So we've got elementalism, illusion, and necromancy. So we've got all three laws. The reason the BSB I've left it on elementalism is, well, basically it doesn't really matter. You might roll Plague of Rust, essentially, which is pretty cool, which is a good spell. You're more interested in the law of Neakara. So this is the one that you want on the BSB. Jaff's Incantation of Cursed Blades. Any units within command range may reroll any hit rolls of a natural 1. So it's not It's not in combat. It's any hit rolls. So shooting, you get a 1. This Mortuary Priest has the Amulet of the Serpent and Necromancy. The reason with Necromancy, so this one is the one that's going in the big unit of skeletons. The Amulet of the Serpent gives them poison attacks. And the reason you want Necromancy is so you can hope to get something like Spiritual Vortex, which is difficult to cast for a level 2. The one you really want is Spirit Leech, because this is -2 to leadership, so that's the one you really, really want. But again, the Law of Neokara is pretty good. You could have Xar's Incantation of the Desert Wind. You could also go for Jaff's Incantation of Cursed Blades as well, just to make sure that you've got it on that unit. What am I doing? If you have a look at like the range on this thing, that's 18 to over there. I mean, you could move it so that it's within 12 of those as well. So if you get Jaff's Incantation, then basically this is your entire shooting, so including the Bow Shabti. You could get it in range. I wonder if you could put that there and still be in range. Yeah, you can. So Jaff's Incantation can go there. And also the Battle Standard Bearer is a priest and a Battle Standard Bearer, which means you get to reroll your leadership test. So in terms of hurrahs, you can pretty much guarantee that going off 3 times. And so essentially with Arise going off 3 times, you've got a level 2 there, level 2 there, level 4 there. So on this unit, if it lost, a load of wounds to like cannon fire and whatever, you can essentially regen 8 plus 3d3 relatively easily. So that's like 14. So your opponent's going to have to go some, and there's 50 archers there. So with Volley Fire, you got the front 10, and then you got 5 times 4. No, in fact, you got the front 9, and 5 times 4 plus 1. So it's basically, so that's 30 basically. So if you look at essentially 36s, you're going to get 5 poisoned hits. You're going to get 5 other hits, and then you're going to get to reroll 5, which should translate into another hit and another poisoned, if you got the reroll ones. So that's 6 poisoned hits, auto wounding, 6 other hits, one of which might wound. So that's on average 7 wounds against a giant, which is probably enough to kill it. So that unit can kill a giant in a turn. It can't kill a Necrosphinx, but it can kill a giant in a turn. You could also expand your ranks as well a bit and just sort of push them out a bit and get a bit more bow fire. But with Volley Fire, that's pretty good. And then of course, what you want on the big mama High Priest from the Law of Neokara is you want Xar's Incantation of the Desert Wind, because you want to get this 10 plus spike, which essentially everything within command range gets reserve move. The reason reserve move is so good for Mortuary Cults is this can stand still and volley fire, and then afterwards can then move, because you reserve move gives you a move at the end of the shooting phase. So it's not moved, so it can use volley fire, and then you can basically trundle up your 4 inches at the end of the turn like that. As can this, and sort of block in there. We've got 6 Bow Shabti because they're pretty good. I don't really know how to use them. I took some to a tournament. I didn't really. They were just more or less a distraction kind of effects. Really, they didn't really do anything. I also had a couple of these things as well. Screaming Skull catapults. They're rubbish, by the way. Models are cool, but rules are not great because stone throwers are terrible at the moment. Yeah, stone throwers are pretty terrible at the moment. They need something to increase their accuracy or something to increase their output. Like, maybe more AP. Or just need to be a lot cheaper, so people take more of them. Because if they hit, they're all right, but I mean they're not amazing. With strength 4 AP 1, with like essentially doing like 3 or 4 hits at strength 4 AP 1, it's neither here nor there. I say 3 or 4 hits, and that's when they actually hit a target, which is like quite rare. We've got a casket over here. I mean, actually, I'd probably best put it there, because essentially what you want is you want the whole army. I don't know why I didn't put those in the woods. Yeah, there we go. So you want the whole army within 18 inches of the casket, because one of the casket's abilities, and this is the first one. Is it that rule? Yeah. Light of Protection is what you're going to cast to begin with. So these cast bound spells with a power level of 3. So you've got this Light of Protection bound spell, which essentially is cast on a 5 because of bound 3. Anybody within any friendly unit within 18 inches is -1 to hit and gets a 6 at ward as well. So, that means the whole army's basically got at least a 6 at regen. I think there's a 5 up there. I think... Necrosphinx also have a 5 up regen. So these three have a 5 up regen. In fact, I think Bo Shabti do as well. And then you got a 6 up ward save as well from this, and also -1 to hit, which is really useful. The Mortuary Priest that's Mortuary Priests can do this thing called From Beneath the Sand. So they take a leadership test. Each of them can do it once. So during the command subphase, if they're not engaged in combat, ambushes, blah 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 blah. So they can put them within 12 inches of the model, but not within 6 inches of the enemy. Okay. So if you go second, so the other thing about ambushes is it reduces your drops. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drops in total, which is quite low. So you're likely to get +1. So you might be going first. The From the Beneath the Sands, this has an ability that essentially gives it an 18-inch range to sort of put stuff down. So it could put those down over there. Which, if you look at like distance to... I know it can't because I've moved it 4, haven't I? Ha ha ha. But it could have put them down probably there. Something like that. And then for the front of the unit, this will be 8 now because I've moved it. In fact, this one can even go further, can't it? Well, anyway, it's got a magic item that allows you to put stuff within 18 inches. So it gives you a bit of flexibility in that you could put this priest like towards the front of your army and essentially drop these 8 inches away. The reason you want to do that is because you've got this Terrors Below ability here, which is any Tomb Scorpion or unit of Necroserpents can have the unit when you deploy from Beneath the Sands. And From the Beneath the Sands is not turn 2, you can do it turn 1. So you can bring on your ambushes in turn 1 if you want, using this ability. Not from the side, but turn 1. It may nominate a single enemy unit who's regular infantry or heavy infantry. It says regular or heavy infantry. We had this at a game at the weekend where bloke said, "Are those infantry?" pointing at my ogres, and I said yes. So he says, "Oh, can I use this ability then?" And then somebody else read it, and then we're like, no, it's regular or heavy. So it's not monstrous infantry, and it doesn't cover all infantry. So I suppose as an aside, infantry covers regular, heavy, and monstrous, but this says regular or heavy. It doesn't say monstrous. So anyway, regular or heavy infantry must make a number of initiative tests equal to the unit strength of the unit. For Tomb Scorpions, that's not necessarily that good because they've only got a unit strength of 3 because they're monsters. These, however, are monstrous cavalry, so that's a unit strength of 9. So if somebody's got some pretty rubbish archers or something, or some kind of chaff, maybe they've got some. Maybe it's like a little unit of beastmen or some Empire archers, or just anything really, or even like a big unit of Bo Shabti. 9 initiative tests on at 2. That means like you've just killed 6 or 7 of them by deploying this unit, which is pretty good. It's just something to. Bo Shabti are monstrous infantry, so you can't use it against them. I'm just thinking about other things that you might want to. I mean, dwarves. That's a horrible ability to deploy against dwarves because they've only got like initiative 2, haven't they? Yeah, imagine that. You could probably, with this deploying this unit, you could probably kill off a unit of Iron Drakes with it, which is pretty horrible for 6 points. That's a pretty good ability, and we want that on the BSB because the BSB gets to reroll leadership tests, and it's a leadership test to use from beneath the stands. It's just undead BSBs get to reroll leadership tests, not normal ones, and that also gives it a 12-inch command range, putting the BSB on it, which is why you want Chuff's incantation of Cursed Blades or whatever it is. Was it Chuff? Yeah. So that's pretty much the list, to be honest. It's not really that complicated. And I think that's another thing why. And then, of course, you've got like. Not that guy. And then you've got like, these 3 monsters here that can like pop forwards and then use reserve move and essentially start to get off the table quite quickly. I've just hidden them behind the trees because the trees are there. I mean, you probably in a normal game you probably want to have like this sort of setup. So like, if they decide to come down the flank here, you can countercharge with this Necroserpent, Necrosphinx. You do kind of want them within 18, so you probably want to deploy that about there, something like that, if you're going to go for a flank attack. In fact, these could go on that flank as well. You could spread out a little bit, because basically turn 1, you can essentially drop all these 3 down a bit like that. So then you've, after turn 1, you've got like a pretty decent, deployment across the board, and you've got some stuff for your opponent to charge in, which you don't really mind losing. So yeah, that's pretty much the list. It's not really that complicated. Mortuary Cults lists kind of write themselves to an extent, really. There's a bit of magic. Bo Shabti are great. I mean, if you just look at the profile, the great bows themselves. For starters, they're BS 3, which means they're always hitting on 4s. They've then got a Strength 6, AP 1, multiple wound, 2 armor bane, 2 great bow, which is 30-inch range. And remember, they don't suffer hit penalties or bonuses, so you can move them 5. So it's an effective range of 35 inches. So they're pretty much getting anything that they want. So yeah, I mean, they can move their 5 inches quite comfortably. Make a shot, and then they can move another 5 inches if you've got your Desert Wind spell off, your reserve move spell off. And this guy in here, the reason he's got Necromancy is because you essentially want to debuff stuff with leadership, so that then you can hit them with the magic missile from the casket. Now, when you cast Light of Death, that cancels this one. That cancels the protection one. So then you have to... Now, this is an enchantment. This is a magic missile. So this one you do in the incantation phase, which is in your strategy phase, which is before shooting. This is in the shooting phase. So if you cast that, and then you try and cast this, it does have a 36-inch range, which is pretty good. So it's pretty long range. I mean, you don't have to really worry about deployment. 36 is going to get like... Yeah, it's all the way over here. So it's going to get pretty much anything that comes into your kill zone from this particular point. Yeah, there's lots of targets for it there. And this requires your opponent to take a leadership test, and if they fail, you get D6 plus 3, strength 6, multiple wound 2, no armor or regen, which is horrendously nasty. If they pass leadership test, it's D3 strength 3 with AP 1, so that's useless. You want them to fail the leadership test, which is why you kind of need some leadership debuffs, really. That said, -1 to hit and a 6 at ward for the whole, well, for more or less the whole army is pretty good for 135 points. In fact, actually, you know, another thing that you could do is just try and castle up. So get your bow shabty there. Get this here. Because you want these to like have line of sight through stuff. So if a unit sort of ends up here, it's still got line of sight to make the charge, and then it can go like, I think they've got like fly 9, so it's got like an 18-inch threat range. So it can, you know, as long as it can see the target, it can declare a charge, fly over everything and hit it over there. So that essentially means like your castle range is up here, which means your opponent can't get within infantry charging range of the archers. So yeah, and then you just gradually move this up as a block and just keep your charge arcs and, you know, what have you. You know, these might end up over here as like counter charges as well, and this gets sort of, you know, dropped down there to 18. Yeah, so that gets dropped down there to cause some initiative checks and what have you. Necro Serpents, apart from that, are pretty rubbish. They've got 3 wounds. They've got hand weapons. Yeah, they're pretty rubbish. They've got 3 attacks each, which is pretty good. Have they got any armor? They've got light armor from their armored hide. Regen 6. They do have poisoned attacks. Strength 5 impact hits are pretty good. But yeah, they're not that great. So yeah, that's the Mortuary Cults list. I think that would be pretty successful, mainly because it makes your opponent come to you. All the while they're getting absolutely hammered with the skeleton archers and bow shabty. And then as soon as they get close enough, you've got 3 horrible monsters to pop out and smash them with. Well, in fact, 5 horrible monsters to pop out and smash them with. And then as soon as this sort of counter punch comes through from, as soon as this counter punch comes through from these 3 monsters of whatever's left, you know, that's it. And also, it's actually quite manoeuvrable. Because the cool thing about reserve move is you can do a full reform, and then you can shoot, and then you can move again. So if you need it, then you can. Like, you could do a full reform and like deploy this into like a line hammer type thing if you wanted, which would really annoy your opponent. So, pardon me. So it gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of doing what you want and manoeuvring stuff and deployment and everything. Really, there's a reason that Mortuary Cults are towards the top of the rankings at the moment. But anyway, those are some of my thoughts on Mortuary Cults and a bit of a net list. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you later. Toodaloo.